I knew something was wrong the moment the ground started shaking, not from an earthquake, but from trucks rumbling straight toward my ranch like an invading army. At first, I thought maybe the county had sent someone for the routine fire break inspections. But as I stepped onto my porch, coffee in hand, the sight that greeted me froze me in place. A convoy of landscaping trucks. 4 chainsaw crews. And, standing at the very front like a queen surveying her kingdom, Karen. Not just any Karen, the HOA president Karen, the self-appointed guardian of neighborhood aesthetics, even though my ranch sat outside the HOA's jurisdiction. She acted like the entire valley was her empire, and today, apparently, she'd decided my trees were the enemy. The workers hopped out, fired up chainsaws, and marched toward my tree line like they had every right in the world to be there. Karen spotted me and gave a smug little wave, a wave that said I warned you, even though she never had. I stormed down from the porch. What the hell do you think you're doing on my property? I shouted. Karen didn't miss a beat. Removing these hazard trees. They violate HOA standards. She said it like she was reading from a rulebook she wrote herself 5 minutes earlier. I pointed toward the sign at my gate. This ranch isn't under your HOA. That's what you think, she said, smirking. The board voted to expand our protection zone. Effective immediately. Protection zone. That's what she called trespassing. Behind me, in the training cabin and scattered around the tree line, 20 off-duty wilderness rangers, my friends, were in the middle of a week-long survival and patrol workshop I hosted every winter. Most were inside prepping gear. A few were setting up perimeter exercises. And every one of them had the skills, training, and authority Karen absolutely did not want to challenge. But she had no clue they were even here. I warned her. Karen, I'm telling you right now, you need to turn those workers around. She rolled her eyes, crossed her arms, and loudly announced to her crew, start cutting. This entire line goes. A chainsaw roared to life. That sound echoed across the clearing loud enough that the rangers inside the cabin paused, confused. I could already hear boots hitting the ground as they came outside, alert and ready. Karen's world was about to collide with reality in the worst way possible. And she had no idea what was coming. The chainsaw snarl hadn't even finished echoing across the valley before the cabin door burst open. One by one, the rangers stepped out, boots laced, gear strapped, eyes sharp and instantly alert. These weren't ordinary hikers or weekend volunteers. These were trained wilderness officers, fire management specialists, conservation enforcers, and backcountry patrol rangers who dealt with everything from poachers to bear encounters. And now, apparently, an HOA invasion. The first to approach was Ranger Dalton, a mountain of a man with a calm voice that could settle a stampede. He looked from me to the workers, then to Karen. Sir, what's going on? I didn't get a chance to answer. Karen marched toward him, chin up and sunglasses gleaming like she was about to issue a citation. Finally, she said loudly, someone with authority. These trees are illegal, this property is in violation, and we're correcting it. Dalton blinked, confused. Ma'am, we're not with your HOA. I know that, she snapped. But you're law enforcement, aren't you? Good. Then stop him from interfering. He is obstructing community safety operations. Community safety operations. Dalton looked at me, then at the workers now inching closer to the tree line with their chainsaws revving impatiently. Ma'am, he said carefully, this is private land. These men can't touch those trees unless the owner requested it. Karen laughed. Not a normal laugh. A high-pitched, overly confident laugh of someone who had rehearsed this moment in the mirror. Oh, but he has no authority here. The board voted last night. This ranch is now inside the HOA protection zone. Behind her, a few workers exchanged uncertain glances. They clearly weren't thrilled about being caught in the middle of an argument between a rancher and a woman who thought she ruled the world. Dalton folded his arms. "Ma'am, HOA boundaries can't be expanded without legal filings, permits, and municipal approval." Karen waved a hand. "Already done." "No," I cut in, "they're not. I checked the county website this morning. Nothing was submitted." I looked at Dalton. "She's trespassing, and she brought contractors." That stopped the workers cold. One man lowered his chainsaw. "Ma'am, you told us this was an approved removal." Karen spun toward them. "It is. Don't question me." But the rangers were already stepping between the workers and the trees. Not threatening. Not intimidating. Just standing firm in a way that made it very clear nobody was cutting anything today. Karen's face flushed red. "You can't do this." "I am the HOA president." Dalton replied calmly, "and we are 20 trained rangers on private land. Please step back." For the first time, Karen hesitated. Karen didn't step back. If anything, she stiffened like someone had just challenged her royal authority. Her lips tightened, her chin lifted, and her sunglasses slid down her nose just enough for her to glare over them. "I don't care how many of you there are," she hissed. "These trees are coming down today. The board empowered me to enforce compliance." Then she added, with a dramatic flourish, "even by force if necessary." Dalton raised an eyebrow. "By force?" She pointed at the workers. "Men, proceed." But not a single survived. The crew exchanged looks, awkward, nervous ones, as they slowly backed away from the rangers. One of them muttered, "Lady, you didn't say anything about law enforcement being here." "You're not law enforcement." Karen spat. "You're forest people." Dalton almost smiled. "Close enough." Another ranger, Mia, stepped forward, short, sharp-eyed, and notorious for her no-nonsense attitude. "Ma'am, you're ordering these men to commit property damage. That's a criminal offense." Karen scoffed. "Property damage? These ugly trees are a fire hazard. And they block the community's scenic view. I'm trying to protect property values." "It's my property," I reminded her, "and my trees. And they're not hazardous. They're certified healthy by the county." Karen waved that off like it was irrelevant. "The HOA has higher standards." "The HOA," Mia said slowly, "has no jurisdiction here." Karen jabbed a finger toward the ranch boundary. "We expanded our zone." Dalton shook his head. "No legal paperwork. No county acknowledgement. No posted notices. No mailed updates. And you can't retroactively seize someone's land without a government process." For a moment, Karen actually faltered. Her eyes darted from ranger to ranger. She hadn't expected resistance, certainly not from 20 trained officers who knew the law better than she did. But Karen wasn't built to back down. She was built to escalate. "You know what?" she snapped, grabbing her phone. "I'm calling the sheriff. We'll see how fast you people get off this land when real law enforcement arrives." Dalton nodded. "Please do." She glared at him. She hadn't expected that answer. She wanted fear. She wanted panic. Instead she got calm professionalism and 20 pairs of unimpressed eyes. So she doubled down again. Turning to her workers, she hissed, "If you leave, I will blacklist your company from every HOA property in the valley." The foreman crossed his arms. "Ma'am, we're contractors, not soldiers." Karen's jaw dropped. The crew began packing up. Panic flickered in her eyes. Her plan was slipping through her fingers. And she knew it. Karen paced in tight little circles while the workers packed up, muttering angrily into her phone. Every few seconds she'd throw a furious glance at the rangers, as if sheer irritation could make them vanish. Finally, she snapped her phone shut with a triumphant flourish. "They're on their way," she announced loudly, as if she'd just summoned a cavalry. "And when they get here, every single one of you will regret interfering with HOA operations." Dalton shrugged. "We'll wait." Karen expected panic. Instead, the rangers casually dispersed, some leaning against fence posts, others standing by the tree line, calm and collected. I stood beside Dalton, feeling a mix of irritation and amusement. Karen had absolutely no idea how badly she had misplayed this. About 15 minutes later, the sheriff's SUV kicked up a trail of dust as it rolled down the gravel road. Karen's face lit up like Christmas. She practically sprinted toward the vehicle, waving her arms dramatically. The sheriff stepped out, Sheriff Keller, a seasoned officer with 20 years of backcountry experience and the patience of a saint. "Sheriff!" Karen cried. "Finally! Arrest them. All of them. They're obstructing official HOA tree removal and threatening my workers." Keller raised an eyebrow. "Official HOA, tree removal?" "Yes." Karen pointed toward me. "This man is in violation of nearly every HOA landscaping code. These dead, dangerous trees are a community hazard, and he refused to comply. So I brought workers. And then these forest people," she gestured wildly at the rangers, "blocked them. Intimidated them. Possibly assaulted them. I want every one of them removed from the property immediately." Keller turned to me. "Is that what happened?" I shook my head. "Sheriff, this is private land. She trespassed. She ordered workers to cut down my trees without permission. And she claims the HOA expanded its boundaries to include my ranch." Keller blinked slowly. "Your ranch is 5 miles outside the HOA limits." Karen thrust a packet of papers at him. "The board approved expansion last night. Here are the documents." Keller flipped through them. His expression went flat. "Karen, these are meeting notes. Not legal filings. No signatures from the county. No approval from zoning. You can't just draw a bigger circle around your HOA and claim more land." Karen's face flushed red. "But the board voted." "That vote," Keller said calmly, "means nothing without county verification." The rangers stood silently, waiting. Karen's voice cracked. "So what, you're just going to take his side?" Keller sighed. "Karen, you're trespassing. And you brought contractors onto private land under false pretenses." Karen froze. For the first time, genuine fear flickered in her eyes. Karen stood there trembling, whether from anger or the sudden realization that her entire scheme was falling apart, I couldn't tell. Sheriff Keller lowered the folder of documents she'd handed him, the pages fluttering slightly in the breeze. His silence alone was enough to make anyone sweat, but Karen wasn't just anyone, she was someone who had never imagined being told no. "Sheriff," she said, trying to regain her composure, "you don't understand. If we don't take down these trees, the entire community is at risk. I'm doing what's best for everyone." Keller crossed his arms. "Your jurisdiction ends where the HOA property line ends. And it doesn't come anywhere near this ranch." Karen opened her mouth, closed it, then jabbed a finger toward me. "He's creating a hazard. These trees are overgrown, untrimmed, and blocking the scenic view of the valley." The sheriff raised an eyebrow. "Blocking whose scenic view?" "Mine," she blurted out. The rangers exchanged amused glances. Dalton quietly muttered, "There it is." Karen spun toward him. "This isn't funny. I am legally responsible for maintaining community standards." "You're not responsible for this land," Keller said firmly. "And you lied to those workers, which puts you in a very bad position." The workers, who had largely stayed near their trucks hoping to avoid involvement, perked up as soon as they heard lied. Their foreman stepped forward. "Sheriff, she told us this was a county-approved hazard removal. We wouldn't have sent a crew otherwise." Karen whipped around, eyes wide. "I I didn't lie. I just simplified the situation. Simplified? Mia echoed. You falsified authority. Karen shrank slightly. You can't talk to me like that. The sheriff cleared his throat. Karen, I need you to understand something. Bringing workers onto private land under false authority is trespassing. Ordering them to cut trees could be considered attempted property damage. And threatening to blacklist their company if they didn't comply, he paused for emphasis, could be coercion. Karen's face went pale. You're making it sound criminal, she whispered. It is criminal, Keller replied. If the landowner presses charges. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The weight of the sheriff's words lingered in the air like a thundercloud. Karen's eyes darted between me, the rangers, and the workers, every one of them staring at her with some combination of annoyance, disbelief, or quiet satisfaction. Finally, she tried one last desperate angle. Sheriff. I was trying to help the community. Keller sighed. Karen, you've taken things too far. Again. The word again hit her like a slap. She stiffened, but she didn't argue. Her power, her confidence, her bluster gone. All that remained was someone who finally realized she'd crossed a line she couldn't talk her way out of. Sheriff Keller took a slow step toward Karen, his voice dropping into the calm, authoritative tone that meant business. Karen, I need you to stay right here while I document the scene. Don't wander off. She swallowed hard. Document the scene? Sheriff, surely that's not necessary. It is, Keller replied. You brought heavy equipment onto someone's land. That requires a formal report. Karen looked like she might faint. The workers stayed clustered by their trucks, avoiding eye contact with her. The rangers, meanwhile, moved into their natural rhythm, organized, coordinated, and efficient. A few walked the perimeter to verify property boundaries. Others took photos of the tire tracks leading onto my land. Mia recorded a short statement from the foreman. Karen watched all of this unfold in growing horror. This is excessive, she muttered. Ridiculous. Overblown. Dalton crossed his arms. You brought 4 crews with chainsaws and threatened them. That's not small. Karen glared at him. I am the HOA president. I have authority. Not here, I said quietly. She turned on me. You don't understand. If people let their properties fall out of line, the entire community deteriorates. I'm trying to keep standards high. You tried to keep control, I corrected. There's a difference. Keller finished photographing the equipment and turned back toward us. All right. I need statements. Karen thrust her hand up. I'll give mine first. The sheriff sighed but motioned for her to speak. She launched into a long, rambling explanation filled with phrases like visual harmony, aesthetic protection, and my duty as HOA president. She insisted she acted for the greater good. She claimed the rangers were militaristic and intimidating. She even blamed the workers for misinterpreting her guidance. By the time she finished, even the workers looked offended. Keller scribbled notes, though it was clear none of what she said helped her case. When she finally stopped, he nodded. Thank you. Now let's hear from the people who actually had legal standing today. Karen gasped. I have legal standing. No, Keller replied, you don't. Not here. I gave my statement next, clear, simple, factual. The rangers followed, each delivering concise professional accounts that lined up perfectly. The workers added theirs, confirming Karen misrepresented the situation entirely. By the time Keller closed his notebook, the truth was undeniable. Karen, he said, based on what I've heard, this appears to be a deliberate misuse of authority and an attempted unauthorized removal of private property. Karen's face tightened. So what happens now? That depends, he said, turning to me. Do you want to press charges? Karen's breath caught. For the first time since this all began, she looked genuinely scared, not angry, not indignant, but terrified of what she'd brought on herself. The air went still the moment Sheriff Keller asked the question. Even the rangers, normally unshakable, shifted slightly as the weight of the decision settled over the clearing. Karen's eyes widened, her breath shallow, her hands trembling at her sides. For someone who lived off control, this was the first time she truly had none. Please, she whispered, stepping toward me, let's be reasonable. Reasonable? After rolling onto my ranch uninvited? After lying to workers? After ordering chainsaws toward my trees? Dalton muttered under his breath, now she wants reasonable. Karen ignored him. Her gaze locked onto mine, desperate. I didn't mean any harm. I was just trying to maintain order. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't respond immediately. Keller waited patiently, giving me space to think. The rangers quietly stood back, watching but not influencing. Even the workers seemed to hold their breath. Karen clasped her hands together. Look. I admit things got out of hand. But pressing charges? That will ruin my reputation. My position. Everything I built. That's because, Mia said sharply, you built it by bullying people. Karen flinched as if struck. Keller held up a hand for calm. Let's keep this civil. Karen turned back to me. I'm sorry, all right. I shouldn't have come onto your land. I shouldn't have pushed the workers. She hesitated, her voice breaking slightly. I just wanted people to respect the HOA. To respect me. That statement landed with a strange, heavy honesty. I finally spoke. Karen, respect is earned. You can't force it by threatening people or faking authority. Her shoulders slumped. I know. You scared hard-working contractors, I continued. You lied about county approvals. And you nearly endangered 20 rangers who were out here for training. Rangers you didn't even know were present. At the mention of the rangers, her eyes flickered with embarrassment, maybe even regret. Keller stepped closer. Legally, he has every right to press charges. Trespassing. Attempted property damage. Coercion. Misuse of HOA authority. Karen closed her eyes, bracing. I took a breath. I'm not pressing charges. Her head snapped up. Shock washed over her face. You aren't. No, I said firmly. But on one condition: this never happens again. Not here. Not to anyone. You stay off my land. And you stop harassing people using fake authority. Karen nodded so fast her sunglasses almost fell off. Yes. Absolutely. I swear. You won't have trouble from me again. Keller exhaled with relief. All right then. I'll file this as a documented warning. But Karen, his tone hardened, one more stunt like this, and the next landowner may not be as patient. Karen swallowed. Understood. For the first time all day, she actually meant it. Once the sheriff wrapped up the paperwork, the tension finally began to ease. The workers packed their equipment, relieved to be free from Karen's grasp. A few even approached me privately, apologizing even though none of this had been their fault. I thanked them for being honest and standing down when the situation went sideways. Karen lingered near the edge of the clearing, arms wrapped tightly around herself, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. For someone who lived off projecting dominance, her silence felt strangely out of place. But Sheriff Keller wasn't quite done with her. Karen, he said calmly, before you leave, we need to talk about something else. Her head snapped up. Something else? Yes. He pulled out a small stack of reports. Over the past few months, my office has received multiple complaints about your overreach. Karen stiffened. Overreach. I enforce community rules. You enforce them selectively, Keller corrected. Residents reported intimidation, unauthorized inspections, tampering with mailboxes, and threatening fines without proper approval. Karen's jaw dropped. Those people were exaggerating. I was doing my job. Your job, Mia said from behind Keller, is not to make people afraid of stepping outside their homes. Karen turned bright red. I was trying to maintain standards. And in doing so, Keller continued, you violated several county regulations. Your board has been warned twice. This was news to everyone, even the workers perked up, surprised. Karen blinked rapidly. That's impossible. I never received official warnings. Keller held her gaze. We mailed them. Certified. Your signature is on the receipts. For a moment, she looked genuinely confused, until her expression changed. Not shock. Not denial. Guilt. I may have schemed those letters, she admitted quietly. That earned a few raised eyebrows. Dalton muttered, schemed right past the important parts. Karen glared at him, but there was no fire left in it. Keller went on, your board has been under review. And after today, I'll be filing an additional report. Karen's voice trembled. You're trying to remove me. No, Keller said, your actions might remove you. Silence settled again. It wasn't triumphant or vengeful, it was just, the truth finally catching up. She looked at me, then at the Rangers, then back at the sheriff. I didn't think it mattered. I thought if I kept the community perfect, people would appreciate it. People appreciate fairness, I said quietly. Not fear. Karen lowered her head. I see that now. For the first time all day, she sounded sincere. Not performing. Not commanding. Just a person who'd finally hit the point where denial couldn't protect her anymore. Sheriff Keller closed his notebook. It's time to leave, Karen. She nodded slowly, turned toward her car, and walked away, not with arrogance, not with defiance, but with the heavy realization that the world she controlled was slipping out of her hands. Karen's SUV rolled slowly down the gravel road, its engine fading into the distance until all that remained was the quiet rustle of the pine branches she had tried so hard to remove. The Rangers watched her go, their expressions a mix of relief and disbelief. It wasn't every day they had to deal with an HOA president trying to annex a ranch by sheer force of will. Dalton finally exhaled. Well, that was something. Mia shook her head. I've seen wildfires with less intensity. The tension that had gripped the clearing all morning finally loosened, replaced by an easy camaraderie. A few Rangers chuckled. Others checked their gear. The workers, now fully packed up, offered quick goodbyes before driving off, no doubt eager to escape whatever story they'd stumbled into. Sheriff Keller approached me, dusting off his hands. I'll file the report this afternoon. She's not out of the woods, no pun intended, but you handled this better than most folks would have. Thanks, I said. Honestly, if the Rangers hadn't been here. He cut in with a smirk. She still wouldn't have gotten away with it. But 20 trained Rangers definitely sped up the realization. Behind him, the Rangers started gathering for their afternoon training drills. Today's session had originally been planned around simulated perimeter checks. Little did they know the morning had given them a very real one. Dalton clapped me on the shoulder. You handled yourself well. And for what it's worth, you gave her more grace than she's ever given anyone. I shrugged. Pressing charges wouldn't fix the problem. She needed a wake-up call, not a courthouse visit. Still, Mia added with a grin, that was the most entertaining HOA meltdown I've ever witnessed. The Rangers headed back toward the cabin, leaving me and the sheriff by the tree line. Keller gave the trees a thoughtful look. They're in good shape. Healthy. Strong. Good windbreak, too. I nodded. Yeah. My dad planted them with me when I was a kid. Keller raised his brows. Then she was lucky you didn't press charges. Folks don't mess around with sentimental land. Believe me, I said, I thought about it. But maybe now she knows she can't bully her way through everything. Maybe, he agreed. Some people need consequences to understand boundaries. The sheriff eventually headed back to his SUV. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the ranch, the same shadows Karen had declared unsightly. I breathed in the scent of pine and earth, grateful my land was still intact. Grateful the rangers were there. Grateful sanity had won over chaos. And somewhere down the road, I hoped Karen was finally realizing a simple truth. Respect isn't demanded. It's earned. The ranch was quiet again. And this time, peacefully so.